Good afternoon, everyone. The project title I'm presenting on is Integrating Genetic, Agronomic, and Economic Approach to Improving Environmental Adaptability and End-Use Quality of Creeping Red Fescue. Creeping Red Fescue is one of the most popular turf grasses, especially in the temperate regions of the world, and most important um, Canadian turf grass. And we have three components in this study. One is breeding, and our objective is to initiate creeping red fescue breeding for better disease resistance and environmental adaptability. The second is agronomic study to increase multi-harvest seed yield and seed quality of creeping red fescue through plant growth regulation, plant nutrition, and stand management. And third is analyzing the economic profitability of creeping red fescue with those factors included in this study. So first of all, I would like to show you the population improvement scheme that is a phenotypic recurrent selection that we are currently doing, that we started in 2018 with the base population nursery that included 4 different populations of creeping red fescue. Then in 2019 and 2020, we did individual plant analysis for selecting superior plants of the intended traits. Then in 2020, we cloned those selected plants, which are 46 plants in a separate polycross nursery to do polycross among them. And in 2021, for isolated polycross, we created field tunnels for polycross seed production. It was intense heat wave and drought condition, creating a lot of excess temperature. And we are not sure if the seeds we produce there will germinate. But yeah, we just started greenhouse nursery with those polycross seeds, and we see some signs of germination now that we are hopeful that we can go ahead with a new cycle of selection with the new population. So to support this breeding effort, we are also doing some vernalization experiment, that is to be able to produce seeds in the greenhouse and how long we need to expose those plants and what resource regimes we need to put them. And for that, this is our third attempt. And first attempt, we tried all indoor vernalization that was not successful in triggering vernalization, that is inducing reproductive transitions in plants. So that was in 2019 and 2020, we modified that type of outdoor and indoor shuttle type of experiment, but we had to stop that suddenly because of COVID-19 pandemic and caused lockdown. So this is our third attempt in this winter. We started with external, this is unheated greenhouse where we transferred our greenhouse grown seedlings there for overwintering, that is for the purpose of vernalization. Then now we are in batches, we are transferring them for different duration of exposure to cold, to greenhouse, and also treating them with different plant growth regulators and to see what nutrient and plant growth regulator regimes will trigger that vernalization for reproductive success. So this is an agronomic component of the study, and we started the first experiment in 2018 and also did a couple of experiments established in 2019. And these are some of the field scenes of 2019, 2020, and 2021 production years. You see in 2021 production years, plants were quite stunted in growth, and they had a kind of premature senescence, very low seed productivity, and that is because of intense heat wave and drought we had in the later part of June, which is a reproductive stage of the plant. So the results of 2018 established experiment which had 9 treatments that included control, addition of nitrogen, then topping of phosphorus on that, then potassium on top of that, then sulfur on top of that, and also boron foliar application. So for those packages, we had broadcast application in the fall versus bending application in the fall. And we added fall fungicide application to boost plant health for overwintering. And then we also added plant growth regulators on top of that. So the results you see, 3 years results, we really did not see significant treatment effect there. We repeated same experiment in 2019 with same set of treatments there. And again, there you see a little bit difference. If you look at a 10% level, there were some significant difference, but with 5% confidence level, still there is no significant difference of the treatments applied. So in 2019, we established another set of experiment to compare broadcast and bending application of fertilizer, same rate of fertilizer, and with boron and plant growth regulator as additional split plot treatments. And again here, no significant effect of the treatment. So the possible reasons for poor response to nutrients is one of the major factor we suspect is erratic weather condition that masked treatment effect. And I can give you some example of the weather. You can see this is 2018 weather, and during reproductive stage later and harvest time, there was so much rain there, and that affected harvesting of the crops timely. And in that year, actually, lots of field crops went unharvested in 2018 in this region. And so in 2019, so yeah, just I want to highlight one episode of cold that is around June 20th, 21. And so it was around 1 degrees or so. Lots of forest seed crops were affected with that cold stress, resulting in pollination abortion, pollinator, pollen abortion, and the head damage due to cold, and that caused a lot of damage to seed crops, especially early maturing seed crops in this region. And so another 2020 episode, it had relatively better distribution of rainfall, and the temperature regime was also moderate across the growing season. But because of that high humidity condition, high rainfall condition, we observed a lot of insect pest and disease problems, and such a intensity that we had never seen such pest problems before. And in 2021, we had a very intense heat wave. And so you can see that is later part of June exceeding 30 degrees for over a week. And that coupled with a dry period at that time, that caused poor growth of the crops and pollen desiccation and less fertilization success, as well as premature senescence. And so, yeah, these are kind of relationship like we try to see with the fortnightly average temperature and total precipitation for spring. and fall, preceding fall, that is September time. And these green arrows, like those are strong, positive, significant positive correlations with those rainfall and temperatures. And golden arrows are those neutral and non-significant relationship, and especially in early May temperature and average temperature of second week of June had like neutral effect. And while even preceding fall had so much significant effect, if the preceding fall, that is September, first fortnight of September, if you have a high temperature and high rainfall, that promotes so much regrowth, and that is at the expense of overwintering and following year performance. So these are the factors that affect how weather factors affect the crop performance. And so these are some of the episodes I again highlight here. Low temperatures at reproductive stage called chilling injury and floret abrasion, that was typical of 2019 season. High temperatures coupled with drought, that was typical of 2021, caused pollen desiccation and pollination failure, and excessive rain and soil moisture condition during reproductive stage, that was typical of 2020, causes pest problem, lodging, and poor seed set. And excessive rainfall during maturity, that impairs harvesting and also affects seed quality of the crops. So the how weather plays a lot, plays out a lot with crop performance, even though there may be different treatments and that could show up effect, but these episodes actually mask those treatment effects. So other possible reasons for poor response to nutrients are our baseline soil nutrient status that may be satisfying crop requirement for creeping rate fescue, that doesn't require very high fertility regime, but the condition, moderate amount of organic matter and other nutrients condition, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and sulfate in the soil may be satisfying their needs, so did not have positive effect of additional nutrients application. And the growth habit of the creeping red fescue itself as a turf grass, and it is strongly rhizomatous. And for seed crop, what happens is over more fertilization promotes more growth there, and always there is a competition between vegetative tillers and reproductive tillers, and that cause low seed yield. And another thing is this species as uh, turf grass, and it has extensive root system, and root bounding occurs very quickly, and that limits nutrient access to reproductive tillers, again at the expense of seed yield. So previous studies around the world show that plant growth regulator application is effective where water and nutrient limitations are minimal, so that that creates lodging risk. So in that, and so plant growth regulators are effective for reducing lodging risk and thereby protecting the seed yield. And so with this, we feel that there is a need to revisit nutrient management regime. There is a lack of studies on nutrient use efficiency, crop uptake, and losses. And so the objective of the study is to see economics of production. So here, this graph shows variable cost and total gross revenue, cumulative cost, cumulative gross revenue, and gross margin out of that. So from the yield trend, you can imagine that. So integrated crop management treatments had no significant effect in increasing gross revenue over the control, and annual input and their application costs for treatment ranged from $182 to $510. For that, you need to have at least like 10 to 25% additional yield to offset that treatment cost. So we need to work out these things and to evaluate and to develop more profitable production system. So the issues, and this is general for everyone, but I wanted to highlight COVID-19 and that made us work at lower capacity, and so that we are just able to record few variables. And 2020 weather condition I explained before resulted in very poor performance of crops in general and poor seed rate in isolated polycross nursery in the plastic tunnel. And that is especially affecting our breeding effort, but we are hopeful that seeing some sign of germination in the seed produced there, we are positive that we can go ahead with the next cycle with that synthetic seed material. So in conclusion, project activities are in progress to meet objectives, and we feel further studies are needed to identify genomic markers for disease tolerance, dark green coloration, fine leaves. Those are end use qualities actually as well, and seed yield for population improvement efficiency. Currently, we are doing recurrent phenotypic selection. We strongly felt that we need to integrate genomic approach as well in the selection process. And we need to do a study to determine crop nutrient uptake, losses, and crop nutrient budget, and revisit the nutrient management regime in terms of what we apply, how much to apply, in what form, and what time. And so the need of a study also there for tracking the changes in soil health and gaseous emissions under various nutrient management regimes, and identify effective management of post-harvest aftermath and stubbles. There are a lot of studies. Still, we are at infancy. Studies are needed. And so there is a need of study for examining effect of plant growth regulators for earlier induction of fall dormancy to suppress regrowth in the fall, and thereby preserving metabolic reserve in the crown that may result in better performance in the following season, and need to explore inter-row herbicidal options to suppress excessive vegetative tillers to allow better advantage for reproductive tillers in the growing season, and need to assess the effect of deep vertical tillage for aerating rhizosphere environment for new root development and nutrient access for the seed crops, and finally need to develop effective termination and cover crop options for rotational transitions. And so we are looking at systems approach and what goes on after this crop and cycling back. And the seed production requirements, one of the requirements is that you need to have 4 years of gap to have same crop in their same plot. So we need to have effective rotational management as well. So with that, I would like to acknowledge funding and administrative support from Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, Fisheries and Forestry Association, Canadian Ornamental Horticulture Association, and collaborative support from colleague Calvin Yoder and Talon Gauthier, and expertise and technical support from our colleagues at Beaver Lodge, Jennifer Henry, Nober, and Pat Gansel. With that, thank you so much.